Hey guys, I'm Rachel Castile and welcome to Typology Corner. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today I'm doing an overview video on the ISTJ type, and I'll be doing it from the perspective of objective personality. So, objective personality expands from MBTI's standard types, and they also acknowledge a jumper version that is very much regular and common within every type. That there are some types who are leaning toward the third process in the function stack to make a decision or, for observation. And for the ISTJ, what that looks like, I'm going to move on over to the visual here. For the ISTJ, that is them having a different decision maker process between the standard and the jumper. So, what they each have in common, they each have the SI as a dominant process. That is definitely a savior function for them both. And also, they both have as a demon process the extroverted intuition. So, I guess one way to practically see the difference between the two is this one is more tribe focused, our standard. They are going to the tribe, looking at the tribe reasons to make a decision, while the jumper type is much more comfortable with being in touch with what they personally value and making a decision on that without really having to give a lot of reasons for what they like, what they feel, what they, you know, being guided by those sorts of criteria comes more natural to them. So, yeah, so let's just talk about the ISTJ in general, kind of highlight what life is like having a dominant function of introverted sensing. So, introverted sensing is an information observer process, and the type of information that they are observing and making decisions upon most often is known facts, things that they've organized, things that they've retained from life experience. Whether they have a negative association attached to some things or a positive association attached to things or people, experiences, situations, items, whatever it is. They've retained that, they've organized it, that type of information is very accessible to them. To go back to that, it's very present. They have a really good memory for those sorts of things, for just the details of situations. It's what they subjectively retained from the things that they've been through, and they've organized it in their own way. So, if you think about introverted sensing as a dominant process, these types can really look extremely different from each other because it depends on what experiences they've had. The experiences that they've walked through and how they interpreted them really can create a very, very diverse range of ISTJs as well as ISFJs who also lead with this process, because it's fully subjective. It is the details that they've retained from all of the life experiences they've gone through and how they categorized it, organized it based on how it on a body level made them feel, in a sense. Like they're very in tune with their body. So like they have these associations from these experiences and from these memories that kind of overlay the things that's going on in their environment. So seeing an object can remind them of the person who gave it to them, and whether that was positive experiences in that relationship or negative experiences, that can affect how they feel on a body level when seeing that object. And this somewhat creates a tendency, which would make sense, to want to organize their life around them, to kind of take the negative things out of their environment and to have the things that have positive, nostalgic associations, that it's bringing up positive memories, that it's triggering the good things that they organized, and there's a sense of like peace within their body, because they're very aware of all of that the things around them are connected to the experiences. Not all things, but there is a tendency, if it is related to something from the past, them either wanting that around them, it has a positive effect, or things that have a negative effect, they have a tendency to want to move that out of their life. For the congruency of the inner and the outer in a bit, kind of a sense of that is there just from being wired that way. What else can I say about introverted sensing? So yeah, easiest word to say, it's factual memory. It's organized organized experiences that are being prioritized. They're being accessed in order to make decisions. And so this also gives them the common imbalance of extroverted intuition as an inferior process. And extroverted intuition is like new concepts, gathering new ideas, looking around at what is not known. And these types are less inclined to go there, to wander around and look for new things that are unrelated to what they've already experienced. They are more reliant on the tried and true, the things that are working for them, I think, is the best way to say it. It's not a broken thing. It works, and they have a preference. I think the best way to say it. They have a preference for what works for them. They know. How do I say that? They know what they have a personal affinity towards, I guess. It might be a little bit redundant, but just they have their ways of doing the dishes. They have their ways of mowing the lawn. They have their way of, like, the processes for what they, how they get things done. There's a sense of a right way to do something, and it's based on the past. It's honoring the past, you could almost call it tradition, but it's not tradition on a societal level. It's tradition to their experiences. So they really could honor, if it was a positive thing of things that their parents taught them, they would be inclined to maintain what was passed on from the generation before if it was positive. If they, had the impression that those things were negative, it doesn't mean that, as an introverted sensor, they're just going to automatically duplicate their parents. It's not. It's however they interpreted it. That could be something they would absolutely avoid, right? That could be the negative experience that they're like, I'm getting that out of my life. I don't care. I absolutely will not duplicate that because I categorize that as something negative. You can have another person categorize the same thing as positive and carry it on because that's something they do want in their life, because it's the nostalgia of something that was positive for them. So it really matters person to person what type of impression things, had on them to say what they do with that information. Another aspect of introverted sensing is like memory in like a sequential order. Like they are remembering things, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Like this is the order in which you do something. Like the order of operation is very like SI. So they'll be like kind of rattling off their memories in a how to do something. Or their minds are very good for setting up systems in that sense. Their mind is we do this, we do this, we do this, and then we do this after the other one. Somewhat of a recipe of laying something out. Their minds are really wired for that, to naturally think of the order in which something is done. That can kind of sound TE-ish, but it's just more so how the information is stored. It's stored in a order. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on from that and let's get into the TE and FI parts. So for the standard type, they are then, from that information, they are going to extroverted thinking. And extroverted thinking is checking in with the tribe for what they value, or not value, but for what is working for everyone. What are the reasons? What's the logic? What is the understandings of the people around them? And it's a function that is kind of a organizational function of, I'm taking in everybody else and I'm seeing what is going to work for all of us. Does this product work for each person, or does it start to break down? What are people's reasons? It's looking to hear feedback from people on what is making sense for everyone else, essentially, and creating something, making a decision that accommodates, that factors in everyone's experience, in a sense, on a product, or their experience of, it could be anything. It's just making a decision on the other, on the tribe, and not what I personally value, which is that FI. So your ISTJ, your standard one, is aware of the other people, and wants to make a decision that accommodates, that factors people in, that is efficient, that is an effective decision that produces good results for everyone else. It is it's an others focused function. So your standard ISTJ, not only, are they being led by their own personal experiences, but they're also others focused. They're more in tune with the people around them, and this is very much an introverted type, but they are serving the collective primarily instead of making decisions for themselves. They are just more others aware and are looking to build something. This can be applied to so many different things, but if they're, are working with a team of people, or they're in a family, this type is going to be happy when others are happy. Their process for making a decision is based on others, so it requires them needing feedback in order to make decisions that they would deem this is a good decision for everyone. That's the kind of thinking. So this will cause them to ask questions. Extroverted thinking is a function that has you out asking questions. It is an action function. It's not just an internal sort of thing. It needs the collective's involvement. So it's going to go outside of itself, whether that's through research, whether that's reading articles. You can gather what is everyone else saying on something in lots of different ways. You can read what people are saying. You can talk to people, but you can just gather through absorbing and hearing what other people are actually, their reasons for things. Values is more extroverted feelings. So this is more just the logical understandings of things, hearing people's reasoning behind why they're doing what they're doing, why they're choosing what they're choosing. And then extroverted thinking is taking all of that in, getting the consensus of it all, and making a decision that will work according to what they've gathered from other people. It's more of a logical, it's not the emotion. It's seeing productivity break down. It's seeing that something's not getting a good result, or it is getting a good result for people. Making things more efficient, getting, better yield out of things. I like to kind of attribute engineering to extroverted thinking a bit. Looking into if something is working, how to get something to work, how to carry something out in such a way that it produces results. Like, I've been somewhat talking to different types of engineers, as I'm an Uber driver, and I get to meet a lot of people and just get to hear like what they do for a living and stuff, and what it's like. And this engineering sort of mind is extroverted thinking. It's improving systems. It has an action element to it. So both of these ISTJs, the standard and the jumper, both have this function strong in them. And this is what it looks like to prioritize this over introverted feeling. So now let's move on to introverted feeling. I'm still kind of exploring what it looks like in the standard type up here at the top. So introverted feeling is personal values. What do you personally like? What do you personally dislike? What is meaningful to you? What is valuable to you? And it's being in touch with that. It's knowing what those things are and then making a decision on it. Introverted feeling and extroverted thinking are decision making functions. So, in seeing which of these you go to make that decision will determine if you're standard or a jumper. It's, both of these types have access to it, but where do you spend your time? Are you putting your time into knowing how you feel, knowing what you value, knowing what you like, knowing what you dislike, and being able to make a decision on that without having to justify it, but just being guided by it? That's what it looks like as a savior. So, as not a savior in the jumper type, there's an awareness, but not as much. The time isn't spent on this being a demon. The time is being spent here. So it feels a bit uncomfortable to go here and to prioritize this, especially if, say, what you personally value kind of clashes with the tribe. It's not what the tribe is talking about. It's not what the tribe is putting their time into, or what, they have reasons that oppose this personal value. For a type that is leaning towards TE more, it can be difficult to really build that personal FI enough to incorporate that in their life. That's not where they're, it's shown as a demon here, and that's what that looks like. So in the standard ISTJ, there's, a bit, they're a bit out of touch with it in comparison. And as a result of that, they're not as in touch with their own personal values, and or it's more of a secretive thing. It's less displayed in their life. It's less obvious to other people what those personal just personal loves, just like, I really like this, and that's my only reason. Just, I like this or I don't like it. And this type may have a life on the outside that's very fits society in a sense. It fits the group around them. They've made decisions based on things that other people value, or like having heard the reasons of the tribe. They'll have things that goes with the reasons, goes with the logic, goes with, I'll give a practical example, like the whole Apple versus Android sort of debate. And they've heard certain reasons out there, and then they've made decisions based on what society is saying. Therefore, they have the type of computer, the type of phone that the tribe is the most giving reasons for. That's a very logical thing. This isn't FI related. It's like, oh, I have the things that society has deemed better performing than the other things. This product beat the other product out. Therefore, I have it because the reasons says so, right? That's not a feeling judgment. That is just, I'm in touch with what everyone is saying about the product, and therefore I bought it. I didn't let my FI step in and say, no, I just like this. Oh, but do you know it has like a worse processor and it's not as good, and FI says, I don't care. I like it, right? So that FI speaking up in the standard type can make them a bit uncomfortable because they've been accommodating and making decisions on the tribe and not asserting that FI in that story, essentially. So that's kind of what that looks like in contrast. So from there, I've given a bit of a picture of what it looks like to be the demon, basically. So what does it look like to be the savior process? So your ISTJ that is a jumper has a different experience of life. They have that extroverted thinking awareness, but it's a demon. They're not making decisions on it. It's much more comfortable for them to make a decision that honors what they like. They're in touch with it, and you'll see in their life things all over their life. Basically, that's just about what they like, and they really like anime, or they really like, computers, or whatever their thing is. They can say, you know what, I just love this. Why? I don't have to justify it. Your TE savior kind of person is always justifying what they like and not really just saying, "Hey, I like it." They're proving that they like it by giving reasons. But your jumper type is comfortable with being like, "I like it. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to get you to agree on logical reasons. I've chosen it because I've chosen it because I like it, and that's just why." And they're just kind of there. It's more natural for them to do that. And that creates a bit of a difference. So, as a growth path, whenever you're choosing something as a savior, the other one is kind of left on its own a bit, and that is an area that you're not putting as much time in. So just looking across the board at both of them, their growth paths are a bit different. So the TE person does grow by getting in touch with their FI, and then the FI person grows by getting in touch with the tribe and checking in and seeing what the tribe does have to say, and bringing in that information in order to make decisions too. That there can be a bit of a balance between, identity and the tribe. Again, both of these processes are something that they're aware of. It is the gift. The ISTJ has the gift of double decision, double deciding, seeing themselves and seeing the collective. So it has value depending on what you're doing. If you're building something, if you're building a business, if you're, a part of a family, you're married, you have children, there is value in both sides of this coin. There's value in being in touch with your identity and knowing what you like and being grounded within the self. But there's definitely value in being able to hear everyone else out and see what everyone else is having to say on something. And it can, I guess the best way to put it, like, there is improvement in your involvement in society, in what you're producing for community, I guess, because we're not solely for the self. We have, we carry value for the people that we're connected to as well. And your standard type is living aware of that and is coming through for the people more often than for the self. And value for them would be knowing what they value and being able to honor that and to build the self while also serving the collective. So the overall idea of looking at functions is that all of the functions is something that's a part of you. And being able to grow where you're, in the functions that you're not using that are demons, you can really kind of step into the fullness of your purpose, the fullness of your impact in your life. And balance is having identity, and it's also serving the tribe and being aware of both and kind of having the impact that you are like innately called to have on the people around you. The type that is just purely serving other people without identity, they're not really being themselves. They are just accommodating people. So in other words, there's not one over the other. The jumper is not better than the standard type or vice versa. They just have a different growth path. It's kind of the point. The common thing that they both have, though, is that introverted intuition demon. So what does that look like to grow in that? It would be going out and having more experiences, taking in things that you normally wouldn't do, hearing perspectives that is beyond things that you've already, have in your known box, to go out and experience new things, because the more experiences you have as an introverted sensing type, the more connections you're able to make between things, that your memory bank can become updated with new things factored in. Like, the more you can update your introverted sensing with new perspectives, new thoughts, new experiences, new connections, new abstract thoughts, new guesses and assumptions. An introverted sensor is less inclined to make assumptions. They're going to go off of the known, the tried, and the true. But as you start to do that, and step outside of what you already know, what life has already taught you, your knowledge system will just have that much more in it. And that wisdom you have from the things that you've been through, the more you go through new things, it starts to expand. And that very detailed knowledge bank that introverted sensors start to build, it has even more in it. So the more you can branch out beyond what you know, and factor in new thoughts, things that you wouldn't have produced on your own. You had to get around something that was different. You just really become, in that groundedness, even more, how do I say that? A wider perspective. Your perspective expands, and that is extremely good for you guys to grow in that way, and become balanced, because the single observer's like life problem is being all the way in on one form of observation and are totally missing the other part, missing the patterns, or scared to guess, or scared to brainstorm, to kind of move beyond the introverted sensing, what I know, what I've been through. This is another thing I like to mention for introverted sensors, and it's probably true for humanity, but all the more for them. When I talk about like the positive associations, the negative associations that are kind of overlaid on all the things around them, if you've gone through things that were very hard and very negative, you have a high inclination to avoid things that were negative for you. And that's not, basically, how do I say this? It's not the best thing for you to not go back into those things and to heal from them, or to get new associations. So new experiences can help to change the way you've categorized things in the past. So that's that branching out into that extroverted intuition at the bottom, to look at things from another perspective, to help maybe reassociate things. Like, if you've built up a lot of negative experiences with a certain person, an introverted sensor's inclination is just to cut like them out of their life. And it's like, if I just simply don't be around that, then I'm good. That whole organizing the environment to fit the internal preferences of the positive things. Yeah, so it's a bit of stepping into creativity, finding creative ways to bring up those old things so that they can be healed, so that they could be reassociated differently in some way, that your world doesn't get smaller and smaller, that peace only exists in a small corner of the world. That negative experiences can cause an introverted sensor to keep boxing themselves off from things in order to keep peace. I want to keep peace. I want to keep peace. And then, so I've got to get away from that. I've got to get away from that. I've got to get away from that. I got to keep that out of my life. That can start happening. And that I'm only wanting to be around the positive associations, the nostalgia and stuff like that. That brings up the good memories from my childhood, the good things. And it sounds like a good thing, but when you zoom out from it, it can be easy to get boxed off and cornered a bit in life. So again, the extroverted intuition, seeing new possibilities, new ways to connect these things, to look at it from another perspective, um, branching out, it's letting in more light into that place, I guess, as you go out into the extroverted world and explore. I'll also just kind of show that briefly of, these are internal processes, these are extroverted processes. So the TE for the ISTJ is going out and checking in with the people, but the extroverted intuition is going out as well and exploring other ideas, other ways of seeing things, seeing different patterns and connections between things, hearing new ways to process things that you've already previously processed will be a very positive thing for the ISTJ and the ISFJ. And they'll start to sort things slightly different because they went out and branched out. You're not totally reliant on your personal past experiences, but the balance of taking in the new, gathering the new, absolutely is the most positive growth path for the ISTJ to go out and gather. This type is a dominant organizing type. That is a human need that they go all in. Therefore, gathering is the void, and it's also the path to growth. So, all right, guys, I think that is a good overview of the cognitive functions of the ISTJ type, what it looks like to grow based on whether you're a jumper type, a standard type, and to kind of discern which one is true for you in this current state, like what has been saviors for you for your whole life, and then how to develop and how to grow and see the voids a bit that you can grow in, or what areas you're inclined to avoid that feel uncomfortable, that create a sense of fear in you. That's that other side that you're not putting your time into. And yeah, be courageous, step out there, and find ways to incorporate those other processes in your life, and your world will start to open up. It'll start to expand, and you'll start to feel like your fuller self. And yeah, so ISTJs, you're awesome. I'm grateful for what you bring to the world, and take the time to get in touch with where you are in your journey, in your process. And yeah, also, I do advise, if some of these cognitive functions are a bit fuzzy to you, you can get more understanding on them individually by going to my cognitive functions playlist on the channel. So if you just click on Typology Corner channel, scroll down, there's a list of playlists, and cognitive functions has all 8 of the functions, and we'll break them down. And I'm speaking about them in a savior state, and kind of comparing each one of them to the other process on the axis and what it looks like to have it as a savior, and how to incorporate the other one, because they're always operating on a coin with the opposite process. So yeah, get a good understanding of the functions, and then you can see where they land in you, how you're prioritizing them, and how to incorporate the ones that you aren't. So what else? And if you'd like help determining your type, and just to talk through these things with me, I'm available for personal coaching, for typing. You can book a session with me on my website, typologycorner.com. It's in the description. And yeah, you can book an hour appointment on Zoom with me, and we can talk some of these things out. So that's an option as well. So yeah, if you got value out of this video, go and give me a thumbs up. I appreciate the feedback, seeing that it did make an impact and made a difference for you. And subscribe to the channel for future content. I'm going to be rolling out more of these overviews on all of the types. And yeah, just kind of getting more into this content. So, all right, guys, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.